In the grand chess game of global politics, some relationships are just too massive to ignore. And right now, we're watching the UK make a really high-stakes move, trying to thaw its incredibly frosty relationship with China.
For years now, it's been what you could only call a diplomatic ice age between the UK and China. But things are changing. There's a thaw happening. And as that ice starts to crack, it begs the question, what kind of opportunities and what hidden dangers are lurking just beneath the surface?
So to really get a grip on this thaw, you first have to understand just how cold things were. We're talking about a major shift here, moving away from a climate of frankly deep paranoia to something a lot more pragmatic in how they deal with Beijing.
Check out this story. It perfectly captures the change in vibe. Back in 2018, the last British Prime Minister to visit was so worried about spying that they were actually told to change their clothes under the bed covers. Seriously. Fast forward to the most recent trip, and the current PM was asked the same question. His response? A cool, "I can confirm that I didn't." Now that's not just a funny anecdote. It's a huge signal of a deliberate pivot in strategy.
So what gives? Why the big change of heart? Why start taking risks after being so cautious for so long? Well, the answer really boils down to two words: economic growth.
The UK is basically walking a tightrope. The Prime Minister's own words frame this perfectly. It's not about naively jumping into China's arms. It's about a calculated balance. Go after the economic prize for sure, but keep one eye wide open to all the risks. It's being opportunistic, not careless.
And getting to Beijing in the first place, that was a very carefully choreographed dance. First, the UK gave the green light for a new Chinese mega embassy in London, a huge gesture. And in return, the Prime Minister got the full works treatment. A big ceremonial welcome, a military march past, and the big one, over 3 hours with President Xi. All of this was designed to do one thing: get a foot in the door of that massive market.
Okay, so what did they actually come home with? Well, there were some small wins, but the 10 big agreements signed were described by one official as jam tomorrow deals. It's a very British way of saying, yeah, these are promises for the future, not cash in hand today. But, and this is the key part, in a state like China, getting the top leader to personally buy in is everything. The visit itself was the real prize. It set the stage for a more, let's say, sophisticated relationship later on. But hey, every prize comes with a price tag, right? Engaging with Beijing means you have to navigate this incredibly complex web of security threats and some really profound ethical problems that haven't gone away.
And look, this isn't just me saying this or some outside critic. The UK government's own official stance labels China an epoch-defining challenge. When a government uses language like that, it's admitting the threat isn't simple or short-term. It's a massive, strategic issue for a whole generation. And that makes the decision to engage all the more fascinating. And that challenge comes with a pretty long list of specific issues. We're talking about everything from accusations of spying right inside the UK Parliament to China putting sanctions on British politicians. There are the constant cyber attacks and aggressive trade tactics. And that's all before you even get to the incredibly serious human rights concerns about the Uyghur community or the imprisonment of activists like Jimmy Lai. These are the sharp, unavoidable edges of this relationship. So, with all that as the backdrop, what's the verdict on this trip? What were the actual, tangible wins you can point to versus the things that are still, well, unresolved? There was one clear, undeniable win. Beijing agreed to lift its sanctions on 6 serving British members of parliament. In the world of diplomacy, that is a concrete result. It's a genuine breakthrough that the UK can point to as a direct positive outcome of showing up.
But on those tougher issues, the picture gets a lot murkier. We know the Prime Minister brought up the really sensitive topics, the Uyghurs, Jimmy Lai, directly with the Chinese leadership. But just raising an issue isn't the same as solving it. Whether those conversations will have any real, lasting effect, that is still a huge open question. Of course, you have to remember this whole diplomatic dance isn't happening in a bubble. The UK strategy is being pushed and pulled by some powerful forces on the world stage, not to mention all the pressures back home. A huge factor here is the feeling that traditional allies, especially the United States, might not be as reliable as they once were. When the global order feels shaky, what they call middle powers, countries like the UK, France, or Canada, they start to forge their own paths. They begin to hedge their bets, and you can be sure that China sees a big opportunity in all that uncertainty. And all of that brings us to the final, lingering question. The Prime Minister might have come back from China feeling more confident on the world stage,
But with some serious political challenges waiting for him back home, you have to wonder, is this diplomatic thaw actually built to last? Or could a simple change in the political weather at home freeze relations right back over again?